she snapped. I don't want your cheap handmade stuff. It looks worthless. I just nodded, all right. The next day, I let the gallery display it, and when she walked by, she froze at the $12,500 price tag staring back at her. My name is Aiden, 31 years old, a mechanical engineer for a precision equipment manufacturing company. When people look at me, most just think, yeah, this guy probably spends all day hugging lathes, mills, and bolts. They're not wrong. I work with machines and metal almost every day. But the thing that actually makes me feel alive isn't technical drawings. It's mechanical watches. I started tinkering with watches back in college, taking apart an old one and putting it back together. It started as curiosity, then turned into passion. The feeling of those tiny gears meshing together, the balance wheel swinging steadily, that faint but proud ticking, it makes time feel like it has a physical shape. Sometimes after work, I stay in the workshop, borrow tools, machine parts, polish cases, and assemble movements I buy from old flea markets. And then there's her, Lena, 28, a regional manager for a well-known fashion brand. With clients, co-workers, even friends, she's the definition of a modern woman. Well-dressed, confident, sharp-tongued, quick with trends. Whenever I go anywhere with Lena, I can easily tell people notice her first. She's beautiful in that refined way. She takes care of herself, knows her angles, chooses the right perfume for the right occasion. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party. I was wearing a white shirt, black slacks, and on my wrist was an old watch I had just restored. Lena was the first to notice. "Your watch is gorgeous," she said, lifting my wrist to look closely. "It doesn't look new. Kind of vintage." I told her I had disassembled it, cleaned it, polished the case, replaced the crystal, then aligned the hands myself. Her eyes lit up. She said, "That's so cool." At the time I thought, wow, she gets it. We started with short messages, post-work coffee, moments where she talked about her customers and I talked about machines. Everything progressed naturally. A year later, we moved in together in this rented apartment. The one with the little kitchen where tonight, the watch I made for her ended up sitting next to the trash bag. To be fair, it's not like Lena never appreciated me. She had gentle moments, reminding me to eat on time, forcing me to rest when I stayed too late in the workshop, sending me lunch when she knew I was stuck on a project. But there was one thing I gradually realized. For Lena, everything around her is measured by market value. What she buys, where she goes, who she meets, the restaurant she checks in at, they all have to be worth something. Gifts, in her words, are proof of a man's effort. And effort is mostly converted into the number on the receipt. At first, I didn't care. Birthdays, holidays, I still bought normal gifts. A small necklace, shoes she wanted, a short trip. But later, the comments like, "My friend got this," "My friend's husband took her there," started appearing more often. I'm not poor. My engineer salary is fine. But I'm not the type to throw a few $1,000s on something just because it's trending. I like things shaped by human hands, effort, stories, memories. Lena likes things that make people go wow at first glance. This year was our second anniversary of moving in together. I planned the gift 3 months in advance. A handmade watch, unique, one of a kind. I sourced a vintage movement from a discarded long-established brand, polished a steel case myself, designed the dial, and had a friend print it. On the case back, I engraved the letters L and A intertwined. For 3 months, I stayed at the workshop almost every night, working under one small desk lamp with loop lenses and parts smaller than rice grains. The guys in the shop joked, "So if it's that well made, how much would you sell it for?" I just laughed. "Not selling. It's for my girlfriend." I still remember clearly, on the final test before our anniversary, I pressed my ear to the watch, listening to the tick, 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 breathing like something just born. I imagined Lena's face when she opened it. Maybe she'd smile, a little surprised, and hug me. That alone would have been enough. But reality was far from that. I don't like handmade stuff. It looks cheap. That sentence killed everything. She didn't ask how long it took, why I chose that design, or what it meant. She looked once and immediately judged, worthless. I wanted to say that if I brought this out, it would easily be worth a few $1,000s because of the rare vintage movement and the near-complete restoration. But I swallowed it. If I had to use money to justify something I made out of love, the conversation was already lost. It wasn't the first time I had been dismissed. Growing up, I was the quiet kid, low-key, doing things myself. My dad passed early, my mom worked while raising my brother and me. I learned to do things on my own, patching my own bike, fixing fans, reattaching loose cabinet hinges. The only thing my mom always told me was, don't live loudly. Live kindly and work hard. People will eventually know who you are. I carried that into the way I love. I'm not great with sweet talk. I show love by fixing the wobbly shelf at home, cooking dinner when Lena had a hard day, repairing her heels when they were about to break. For me, love lives in the things you touch because you care. That's why the handmade anniversary gift wasn't a last resort because I ran out of money. It was my first choice. Lena grew up differently. She's an only child. Her parents ran a small business and spoiled her. They taught her, a girl must choose the best, never accept mediocrity. And the best in her home almost always meant the most expensive. She told me that when she got good grades, her mom took her shopping. Branded clothes, new shoes, new bags. For her 18th birthday, she got a designer watch worth almost as much as the motorbike I'm riding now. From then on, her worldview had one clear metric. Anyone who loves and values her must show it in a way that others would envy. Honestly, she's not a bad person. She works hard, she's independent, she doesn't rely on anyone completely. But she's obsessed with not being seen as less. And tonight, when she opened the gift from her engineer boyfriend who works in a machine shop, she didn't see 3 months of effort. She saw a logoless handmade item. Dinner afterward was wrapped in this strange atmosphere. She ate a few bites and stopped, saying she was full. She casually mentioned that her coworker's boyfriend took her to the Maldives, then asked, "If you had money, where would you want to travel?" I answered honestly, "Probably Switzerland, to visit the watch ateliers." She looked at me like I was speaking another language. "I mean vacation like resorts, beaches, luxury rooms. You don't think of those?" I just smiled it off. If an anniversary turns into a debate about the monetary value of a watch, it loses its meaning. When Lena turned off the living room lights and went to bed, I returned to the kitchen and opened the cabinet where she had placed the gift box. There it was. Next to the black trash bag, an empty pizza box and recyclable plastic bottles. I took it out, opened it, and looked at the watch lying still inside. Under the yellow ceiling light, the hands were still ticking steadily. The watch had no idea it had just been labeled cheap. I gently stroked the crystal and exhaled. Strangely, I didn't feel angry. Just tired. I closed the box and carried it to my small workspace down the hall. The room where I always assembled random things. I placed it on a velvet tray among other unfinished movements. A faint thought flickered. Maybe I should bring it to the workshop tomorrow, see what the gallery guys think. I didn't know then that this fleeting thought would become the turning point in our relationship. The next morning, I arrived at the workshop earlier than usual. The sky wasn't fully bright yet, the pavement still damp with night dew, and the chilly air made me feel strangely alert. I carried the watch box with me, set it carefully inside my backpack, making sure nothing touched it. The workshop was still quiet when I unlocked the door, only the flick of the neon lights and the soft breathing of the air compressor in the corner. I walked to my usual workbench, opened the box, and set the watch on the cloth pad. The cold white light hit the dial, highlighting the hour hand I had aligned so meticulously. I let out a breath. Cheap. That word kept echoing in my head. I didn't blame Lena. Everyone grows up with their own circumstances, their own values. But what hurt most was that she didn't see any part of me in that gift. It wasn't cheap, it was 3 months of my life. I lifted the watch, tilting it slightly to check its movement. The workshop door suddenly opened and a voice called out, "Oh, Aiden? You're here early." I turned around. It was Mark, the gallery manager and the one in charge of connecting with local craftsmen. He was about 40, salt and pepper hair, always wearing round glasses, and he had a habit of asking abrupt questions. I greeted him. "Morning. I'm just checking a few movements." Mark frowned and walked closer to my table. "What's this?" "A handmade piece." I wasn't sure how to explain, but he leaned in, picked up the watch using the pair of white gloves he always kept in his coat pocket. And then, surprisingly, Mark went completely still. "Aiden," his voice dropped. "You made this?" I nodded. "Yeah. I assembled it for my girlfriend." Mark rotated the watch under the light, opened the case back, examined the movement. His eyes widened like he had just found real gold in a pile of scrap. "You restored this movement? You know this brand stopped production over 20 years ago, right?" I nodded. "You refinished the case? And regulated the oscillator yourself?" I nodded again. Mark slammed his hand on the table, not in anger, but in the kind of excitement that made him forget his composure. "Aiden, have you been hiding your skills from us? This thing is worth at least $7,000 or $8,000. Maybe more." I chuckled, a bitter edge in my voice. "Thanks, but my girlfriend thought it looked cheap." Mark froze for 3 seconds. "Cheap? This? You're joking, right?" I shook my head. Mark exhaled so long I thought he might collapse into the chair. "Some people truly look without seeing." Then he looked straight at me. "Do you want to display it? Seriously. We're opening a handcrafted timepiece showcase this week. This deserves to be front and center." I hesitated. "You sure?" Mark almost laughed. "Sure? I'd even buy it myself." By noon, after a few simple forms and a signed approval, my watch was transferred to the gallery right next to the workshop. The gallery was in the city center, a place frequented by artisans and collectors. Bright, elegant, but not gaudy. Mark placed the watch in its own glass case, under a warm spotlight, and added a name plate. Aiden R. Custom mechanical timepiece. As for the price, Mark asked, "How much do you want?" "I suggest $10,000 to $14,000. But it's up to you." I answered, "You pick something reasonable." He settled on $12,500. Looking at the price tag, I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel excited. Just lighter. Lighter because at least someone saw my effort. That afternoon, Lena texted me. "I'm getting off early today. Want to take a walk with me?" I agreed. Despite last night, I didn't want things to feel too heavy. We met at the Central Plaza. Lena wore a simple white dress, a thin cardigan, her hair tied loosely, makeup subtle and perfect, as she always looked when she wanted good sunset photos. She smiled, took my hand, chatting about her coworkers, about new inventory arriving at her store. I listened, though my mind wasn't entirely settled. Then we walked past the street where the gallery stood. The glass doors reflected the golden afternoon light, the whole street wrapped in a warm glow. Lena was mid-sentence when she suddenly stopped. Her whole body went rigid. I turned to her, her eyes were fixed on the display case ahead. And in that display case was the watch. The watch she had placed next to the trash bag. The watch, she said, looked cheap. The watch I spent 3 months building. It was resting elegantly in the center of the case, slowly rotating under the spotlight. Lena blinked repeatedly, as if she couldn't trust her eyes. She stepped closer, her face nearly touching the glass. She read the nameplate. Slowly, word by word. Aiden R. Custom mechanical timepiece. I stood behind her, silent. Lena swallowed. She looked down at the price tag. And at that moment, the color drained from her face. $12,500, not $200. Not $500. Not $1,000. $12,500. A price she knew well. She worked in retail. She knew how rare it was. Her hands trembled. She tried to place her fingers on the glass but hesitated, then withdrew. She turned to me, eyes wide. Aiden, this is the one you made for me, right? I answered softly, yes. Lena opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I looked her straight in the eyes, voice calm. You said it looked cheap. I didn't know. I thought. I assumed you just made it casually. I didn't know it was worth this much. Lena stammered. Oddly enough, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel hurt. Or angry. Just empty. I asked. If I had told you it took 3 months to make, would you have believed me? She stayed silent. If I said the movement was rare, the case was hand-finished, the dial custom-designed, would you have cared? Lena clenched her hands. I'm sorry. I didn't think. I was wrong. She stared at the display again, like she couldn't believe the universe would let something like this happen. Aiden, why didn't you tell me it was valuable? I replied. Because I thought a gift I made with my own hands, just for you, shouldn't need a price tag to prove anything. She bit her lip, face flushing then paling. We left the street. Lena was silent the entire walk. I didn't speak either. Not out of anger, I was just trying to understand how I actually felt. Near the apartment, she grabbed my hand. Aiden, last night I was wrong. I shouldn't have insulted your work. I looked at her. It's not about value. I was hurt because you didn't see me in it. Lena lowered her head. I want to fix it. Give me a chance. I didn't answer immediately. I only said, I'll think about it. That night, back home, I sat down and exhaustion washed over me. Lena sat on the bed, makeup gone, face somber. The shine she usually carried wasn't there. Seeing her like that hurt me too. But in my mind, I kept seeing the watch next to the trash bag. 3 months of work. One word, cheap. One shrug. And a $12,500 price tag. She came closer. Aiden, her voice was so soft I had to turn to hear it. I really am sorry. I'm used to receiving branded gift. I didn't understand the value of something you made. I was shallow. I know that. She stepped nearer and placed a hand on my shoulder. But when I saw that watch in the display case, I realized I underestimated you. And I hated myself for it. I asked. If yesterday I had given you an expensive brand-name watch, would you be upset like this today? She shook her head. No. But that's the problem. I'm not upset because of its price. I'm upset because I threw away something you made. With your heart. A beautiful sentence. But I wasn't sure she fully understood. I spoke slowly. Lena, this isn't the first time you dismissed something I did. It's not the first time you judged everything by its price. She widened her eyes. You think I only care about money? I said calmly. I think you value material things more than meaning. And I don't blame you. But I don't know if someone like me is the right fit for you. She sat beside me, gripping my hand. I don't want to lose you. I looked into her eyes. I don't want to lose you either. But we have to be honest. Can you appreciate things without a brand name? Can you value effort over receipts? She stared at the floor, shoulders trembling slightly. I'll try. I didn't answer. Didn't hug her. Didn't say, I forgive you. I just sat there, staring at my hands, the same hands that assembled every gear in that watch, and wondered, does any of my effort still matter if the person I love doesn't see it? Outside, the streetlights turned on. People walked by on the sidewalk, while my watch rested in a glass case, beneath a $12,500 tag. And I knew tomorrow would be a deciding day. I barely slept that night. The sound of cars on the street, the hum of the air conditioner, the ticking of the wall clock, all blended into this steady rhythm I just couldn't fall into. Lena lay on her side of the bed, silent. She didn't cry, but her whole body was tense like a string about to snap. The night was long. So long I couldn't tell if I was awake or drifting in and out of tangled thoughts. When I finally opened my eyes, Lena wasn't in the room. The bathroom door was open, empty. I walked out to the kitchen. The dining table was bare, no breakfast like usual. I checked the time, 7:12. Lena usually left for work at 8. I guessed maybe she'd gone down to the supermarket to grab something. But no. My phone buzzed with a message. Lena, I went out for a bit. I need to do something for you. I read that line 3 times. A strange feeling ran down my spine. At the gallery around 8 a.m., I arrived at the workshop like usual. But as soon as I stepped in, Mark hurried over from the gallery, looking a bit unsettled. Aiden, you're here. I frowned. Is something wrong? Mark pushed his glasses up and lowered his voice. There's a woman here to see the watch. She's, please don't be mad, a little intense. My heart sank. Her name is Lena, isn't it? Mark's eyes widened. Yeah. She showed up at 7 sharp and demanded we take the watch out. I sighed. You didn't hand it over, right? Mark folded his arms. Of course not. You signed the exhibition consignment. We can't give it to anyone, not even your family. Besides, he glanced toward the gallery. She accused us of overpricing it and said the watch was her gift. I closed my eyes. I knew Lena would do something reckless. I just didn't think she'd pick the gallery's busiest hour. Mark put a hand on my shoulder. Go in. I think she needs to talk to you more than anyone. When I walked into the gallery, I saw Lena standing in front of the glass case. Her face was tight, eyes red but dry. She was trying to stay composed, but her hands were visibly trembling in waves. A few visitors stood a little distance away, watching her with curious glances. The watch stayed perfectly still under the light, silent, elegant, completely opposite to the tension swirling around it. Lena heard my footsteps and turned. Her eyes met mine, and in that split second, her whole body seemed to sag. Aiden, her voice was barely more than a breath. I stepped up beside her. What are you doing here? She swallowed, eyes fixed on the watch. I came to ask for it back. I asked, very gently but very clearly. Ask for it back for what? Lena turned to me. It wasn't the shallow, half-hearted, apologetic look. It was the look of someone who had finally woken up from a mistake. I threw it away, she said. I threw away something worth more than everything I've ever been given. I didn't answer right away. Lena continued, her voice starting to shake. Yesterday, when I saw your name in that display case, I realized I've never truly understood you. I've never understood the things you do with your whole heart. She lifted her hand toward the glass but stopped just short of touching it. I want that watch, not because it's worth $12,000. I want it because it's yours. Because it's something you made for me. I looked at her for a long time. Lena, I said, if yesterday the gallery had priced it at $300, would you still be standing here saying all this? Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I went on. If they hadn't displayed it, hadn't praised it, hadn't put a big price on it, you'd still think it looked cheap. Lena clenched her fists. I know. And I'm ashamed of that. You weren't ashamed last night, I said. You're only ashamed now that other people value it. Lena dropped her head, unable to deny it. I looked at her, the woman I'd loved for 2 years, the one I'd once thought I'd build a future with. But yesterday and today, everything seemed clearer than ever. I'm trying to change, she said. I know I was wrong. But I'm trying to see things differently for you. I asked. If one day I lost my job and my income wasn't good anymore, would you still want to stay with me? That question stuck in her throat. She couldn't answer. I drew a deep breath. Lena, I don't need a perfect girlfriend. I just need someone who values what truly matters. Can you be that person? Lena's tears finally fell. I can. I will try. I looked deep into her eyes, searching for something solid. But what I saw was fear, a willingness to accept, and a promise with no foundation. No trust. No real mutual understanding. I stepped closer to the glass case and looked at the watch one last time. It was beautiful. Not because of the gallery's price, but because it was the final proof of 3 months I had poured my heart into. Then I turned back and said, "Lena, we should end this." It was like she'd been punched in the chest. "No. Aiden, don't," I shook my head. "I don't blame you. I honestly don't. But I think you deserve someone who fits you better. Someone who can take you where you want to go, buy you things you're proud to show off, live in the world where you feel safe." Tears soaked into Lena's collar. "I don't want anyone else. I want you. But you don't want what comes with me," I said. "You want me in a version the world applauds. Not the version that's actually real." That sentence made her crumble right there in front of me. Mark stood nearby, silent. The customers slowly filtered out, giving us space. Lena covered her face, sobbing softly. I just compared wrong. I messed up. But people can change, they can," I nodded. "But not overnight. And I don't want to love someone who starts changing just because they're afraid of losing me. I want to love someone who changes because it's who they truly want to be." Lena sobbed again. I placed a hand on her shoulder, very gently, very softly. "Thank you for everything. But this is as far as we go." Lena looked at the watch one last time, for a long while. As if she were looking at something she would never get back. She whispered, "Aiden, the watch, what are you going to do with it?" I answered, "I'll leave it here. It deserves to be cherished by someone. Someone who truly sees its value, like Mark, like the people who walk into this gallery." Lena's tears fell one last time. Then she turned and walked away without another word. I watched until her silhouette disappeared through the door. Inside, I didn't feel lighter, didn't feel heavier. Just calm. Mark came over and put a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing," he said. I looked at the watch in the display. The light reflecting off the crystal made it shine like it was alive. "Maybe," I replied. "Or maybe I just learned my lesson." Mark smiled faintly. "Trust me. Things made by hand always find their rightful owner." I looked once more. The minute hand kept moving, steady and sure. Just like me. I'm not rich, not flashy, not trendy, but I'm steady. And I deserve someone who sees that from the very beginning. Outside, sunlight poured onto the street. I stepped out, letting the glass door close behind me. The watch stayed inside, beautiful, quiet, proud. And I walked away, lighter than ever. No drama, no shouting, no overdone scene. Just a man who finally understood. Love isn't about the price tag. Love is about the person who sees what nobody else sees.